I'm focused on this theory cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, this is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about some of these crazy rulings against Donald Trump and the Democrats. During Trump's first term, they were doing what they could to stop him in the courts and in the media and protesting and Russia collusion and all kinds of different stuff. And so some of the stuff they're doing right now is just like beyond like the craziest thing right now that just popped up is that Trump is being challenged over websites and information that was taken off of like the CDC and other things like that. They're like, no, you have to restore those pages. I'm like, this man can't control his own websites now. They can't even control his own websites. So I'm just baffled. Other people are baffled. It's a lot going on right now. But yes, Democrats are saying, oh, there's all these constitutional crises going on. I'm like, bruh, you guys are the drama. You guys are the ones who are the crisis. So anyway, we'll talk about that. I also want to talk about Donald Trump and some comments that he made about Hamas and Israel and the hostages. And I think he's right on the money, right on point, and said some things that I believed or would have said from jump right after October 7th myself. So once again, the president of common sense is just showing up for the American people. I want to thank everybody in the chat. I see you guys. If you're probably wondering why I'm here, because I told you guys I wouldn't be. So I was supposed to be on my way to Washington, D.C. Because tomorrow was supposed to be this event for Black History Month in celebration of that, but they had to reschedule because of the weather, and apparently there's supposed to be like a bit of a storm. I don't know how bad the storm will be, but apparently when there's snow, DC just kind of shuts down, and I'm just like, why does it shut down? People are coming out of town, like why are they just shut down? And my sister was explaining like the metro, like, isn't really built to handle like a lot of snow, and we're like, that's dumb considering where it's at. But we're like, okay. So she's just like, it's likely that it's going to be canceled, and then she got the word that it's going to be canceled. So I just looked in my email and it has a new rescheduled date. So I'm assuming next week is when I will not be airing live anyway. So that will the new date for it is next Thursday. So probably next Wednesday, Thursday and Friday I probably will not be going live. So just probably Monday and Tuesday next week. Assuming we kind of still have the similar plan. So I'll let you guys know for sure. But pleasant surprise. I got to be live with you guys today. So hooray, because there were different things like dropping last night. I'm like, I'm not gonna talk about that on my show because I'm gonna be in the car all day. And so we're here together. So anyway, thank you guys for being live in the comments. I see you guys on YouTube showing up. Where's my Facebook people at? But thank you guys for watching live. Thank you to those of you who watch later. You guys know that you guys can also check out content on my website, different articles and other videos you guys can check out. If you like what I do here, you guys can give a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost to stream and run my website, all that stuff you guys can support. that way, I do very much appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out other books and stuff that I've written. If you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, there's a link in the description. It'll take you to like an Amazon page that'll have all my books and stuff on there. But my website is ninjadustpublishing.com for my books. But you guys can easily find that if you go to blackteennews.com and go to the merchandise page. There's a banner that'll take you to my books. I have over 30 books I've written, 18 that I have published, and I will have more out this year. Very excited about my children's picture book coming out. Very excited about that. I'll let you guys know when that finally drops, but I do want to encourage you guys to check out my historical fiction fantasy book that takes place during the Civil War. Think the American Civil War meets X-Men. It's a really cool series. Go ahead and check that out, and my other books as well. So, a lot of crazy stuff going on. And the Democrats are full on. It's a crisis. Oh my gosh, constitutional crisis. And it's just really the same old. And it's so same old. People have already made compilation videos of what it was like during 2017 and so on. So I'm going to show you this clip of CNN. And then I'm going to show you some clips of different news, cast from the era of Donald Trump's first term.
We are 3 weeks into the second Trump presidency, 3 weeks. And tonight there are warnings that the U.S. is dangerously close to a constitutional crisis. Now, the first shoe on this dropped when a federal judge today said the White House is defying his order to unfreeze billions of dollars in federal aid, marking the first time that we've had a judge expressly accuse the Trump administration of ignoring a court ruling. And it's
blah, 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 blah. Which, by the way, Scott on CNN was going back and forth with like a whole panel saying like, you guys know, like Joe Biden like defied the Supreme Court and bragged about it. Like, no, he didn't defy the courts. He's like, with student loans. Yes, he did. He was tweeting out a bunch of crazy stuff about how the courts couldn't stop him. And not just tweets. He like said speeches like that. Supreme Court tried to stop me on student loans, but they can't stop me. And they're like, no, he didn't defy the courts. He just found new other legal ways to challenge it and other but they knew the student loan thing was illegal in the first place. And that's what the Democrats were saying. Like, he just can't do that through executive order. And then they didn't also try to do it through Congress. And then he just tried to do it through executive order using some really shady methods to do it. And then he just kept going at it and kept trying to forgive stuff. And anyway, I'll play something from the speaker, Mike Johnson, about the Democrats and their hypocrisy. But you guys heard, you heard the constitutional crisis. We're only such and such days in, blah, blah, blah. Here's a little trip down memory lane.
Breaking news.
A bombshell.
Today is a turning point. Today was historically bad for President Trump.
Today was a turning point.
A turning point.
We're at a turning point here.
The beginning of the end for the Trump presidency.
We have another bombshell.
Mike Pence might have to assume the office of the presidency.
Rumblings of the word impeachment.
Breaking news.
Another bombshell out of the White House.
I believe this is the beginning of the end.
I do too.
It's really the beginning of the end.
He may be feeling the walls closing in on him.
All the walls closing in on him.
The walls closing in on him.
Breaking news, a new bombshell.
One astrologer says this means the beginning of the end for President Donald Trump.
Trump will resign.
Trump is going to resign.
Is this the tipping point? I know we've said it over and over.
You think this is a tipping point?
And over and over.
This is a tipping point.
And over and over.
Breaking news, President Trump off the rails.
It was the beginning of the end today.
And it goes on. There's about still like a minute and a half maybe of this compilation. But you catch my drift. Right? Like, this is same old story that they've done over and over and over again. And so it's just really the same playbook that they're using. But the interesting thing about this time around is that Trump is ready. He's got, I think, a pretty competent staff, especially like dudes like Elon Musk around him. And, they're not just going to be pushed over and taken advantage of by all these Biden staffers and stuff. So, I mean, that's one reason why they want to fire a bunch of people, because there's obviously a lot of ideologues, not just good civil servants. Many of them are ideologues, and many of them did successfully undermine Trump's appointees and made things really difficult for Trump and the different people he'd put over different departments. And some of them stayed in there and still did like woke crazy stuff that would have been contrary to the MAGA agenda. But, they were civil servants with their hands on the pulse and hands on the keys and all that stuff. So now they're not having it. And then Elon Musk, the New York Times made a video talking about Doge and Elon Musk. And like, this is the same playbook that he did with Twitter, where he came in and he fired a bunch of people and he tried to do like zero, like baseline budgeting. So like they're explaining it as if it's like a horrific thing, the things that he did with Twitter. I'm like, it would suck to lose your job. And that's always a risk when you have someone new coming into the company. That happens all the time in the business world. It's like nerve-wracking, but it is a reality of life. And he got rid of a lot of people. He ran it bare bones. There were some things that went wonky, but they fixed it. And there's some things about Twitter you might not, X now, that you might not like. I never really like the new name, but there's a lot of new, really cool features. Like, I've talked about community notes. I think that's a really great feature, on, X, as opposed to people tweeting out crazy wrong things and it going viral. Then folks will do a correction tweet that like nobody sees. Like the community note, people will be notified if something they liked or it went viral, gets community noted. So I think that's a great, new thing with Twitter. And of course you can say, Dylan Mulvaney is a man or Rachel Levine is a man and not lose your account and have it locked. There's good things that he did ideologically with Twitter, but he had to get rid of people who'd be opposed to that. And then they weren't making money. And so they were complaining and trying to make it seem like Twitter wasn't successful because of the revenue that they weren't quite generating, but they have more profit now because their expenditures aren't as high as they used to be. And then they didn't mention the context of the fact that advertisers on X were like boycotting Elon Musk. And they ran like an anti-X campaign and, because they didn't like his dedication to free speech or whatever. So he had to work really hard to clean up the act on, Twitter X. So him saying, hey, we want to look at the government, make sure it's running, efficiently, that people are responsible with the tax dollars. He pays like more taxes than anyone. And whether it's him or someone who has to pay a couple $100 or a couple $1,000, you probably don't want to do that anyway. So if the government takes it, and if you think it's a crazy thing that you're funding, drag shows in another country, or you're funding Sesame Street in another country or something, like you want to make sure that that's either not going to it or there's a pretty good explanation to why it's going to these places. So them just zooming into these things, letting people know, or just pausing the funding with some of this stuff so we understand what's going on and if it's actually necessary to keep these things. I think what they're doing is a good thing. And it's very telling that they're flipping out about it, that the Democrats are flipping out about it, saying, how dare you show the American taxpayers this? How dare you want access to this information? And there's these people who, are looking at it, have access to people's social security numbers, as if Elon Musk didn't start PayPal. Like, I saw someone's TikTok and they're like, you guys are on TikTok and you're concerned about your social security numbers. And like everybody, if you get paid on TikTok, they use PayPal. He's like, Elon Musk like started PayPal. Like, there's a lot of people who have access to your social security number, but that doesn't mean they're going to do anything nefarious about it. And then I think Ben Shapiro pointed out today, he's like, all these civil servants who have access to your information and your tax information, the wrong one gets that information, they leak it, like Donald Trump's tax returns. Remember when they were leaked? when they were leaked for, I'm sure, ideological reasons. So these people like fainting over Elon Musk, it's just silly. So I appreciate what they're trying to do, but it goes beyond Doge. They're suing for everything. Every little thing that Donald Trump has put out, they're suing. Now I 100% knew that they were going to challenge like birthright citizenship, right? That's gonna highly contested. They have an interesting maybe valid argument if you look at the intention of the original meaning of the law, or what you argue is the original intention of it. I'm not sure. I still maintain that I'm not sure that the courts are going to be as bold to just overturn what's been the interpretation and understanding of birthright citizenship for so long, for what they view as the originist view of birthright citizenship. I do think that we do need to end it in the way that it's done right now, one way or another. And if that takes amending something, I would be for that. And I think they should negotiate, or rather campaign on that. But one way or another, I knew that was going to get challenged, right? We knew that would get challenged. I'm not surprised that some of this transgender stuff would get challenged. Like, people hold on to that. They're going to be really upset when a lot of stuff gets like struck down in the courts. And but some of these things, I'm like, okay, if you make a big bureaucracy and designate all these things like under the executive branch, when all these like people that he appoints are supposed to serve, under the pleasure of the president or whatever. I think it's kind of messed up that you're like, nah, his appointee shouldn't have access to the treasury data. Like, nah, I don't think so. Or nah, they shouldn't be able to pump the brakes on the funding. Like, well, why didn't you just, if all these things are so important and so many people in the Congress, all these Democrats running around screaming, think all these things are so important, then write each thing out in a bill and advocate that it gets funded by what you have access to, because you control the purse, right? But there's some things that are designated by design, I suppose, under the executive branch, and you're flipping out over Trump exercising power with his branch. Like, so it's really insane now. And they've been challenging and upset about some of these rulings with these judges. And so Elon has been vocal, JD Vance has been vocal, and Elon said he thinks some of these judges are corrupt. And so Sheldon Whitehouse, who's a interesting guy, he said thuggery towards judges is not the way courts work in rule of law countries, which is really interesting because, this is one of his tweets. This is a guy in the painting with Clarence Thomas and his billionaire sugar daddy and works with his wife, but Thomas isn't political, right? Like, he's been on a nonstop anti-Clarence Thomas train for a long time. 15 years ago, a 5-4 majority of the Supreme Court handed down a grotesque Citizens United decision opening the spigot of unlimited dark money outside spending elections. And each year since, elections have become increasingly expensive and less transparent. Pretty sure he's into dark money. So, like, here's what this 80 Supreme Court cases look like laid out on the floor. 80 partisan, 5-4 Supreme Court decisions clearly favoring big Republican donor interests, all since Roberts became Chief Justice in 2005. Today's Supreme Court decision is the latest power grab by a court that seems hell-bent on doing the bidding of polluters and deep-pocketed special interests. This ruling is part of a larger attack at the government's ability to protect Americans' health and safety. Like, I don't know if Sheldon Whitehouse is still in a, like, I think all-white country club or something, but he at least used to be. He got in trouble, or it was a bit of a scandal. But yeah, these people are ridiculous. Like, they're very, very, very hypocritical. One of these judges who were coming and stopping, trying to siphon Trump's power, was accused of buying his judgeship and donated a lot of money to different Democrats, like including to Sheldon Whitehouse. So $700,000. So judges have personal opinions, but it just seemed like these folks are doing the most. It just seems like they're doing the most as they're trying to tell presidents how to do things that are in their purview, and they're really the craziest one today. I gotta read this to you guys. Is about a website. So CBS wrote an article about how they're coming for these websites. Judge orders HHS, CDC, and FDA to restore deleted web pages with health information. Web pages. Trump can't even make directives, executive orders. And people changed websites without getting sued. The man can't even run his own websites. A federal judge on Tuesday ordered the Department of Health and Human Services Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and Food and Drug Administration to restore web pages and data that had been scrubbed in compliance with President Trump's executive order on gender ideology while litigation moves forward. Okay. U.S. District Judge John Bates agreed to, when I first saw the headlines about the website thing, I'm like, man, that is crazy. That is crazy. I didn't even know at first it was over the gender ideology executive order. U.S. District Judge John Bates agreed to grant a temporary restraining order sought by the group Doctors for America, which argued that its members use the websites when treating patients and conducting research. The nonprofit organization said that the removal of the web pages by the Department of Health and Human Services and its components violated federal law. Bates found that the challengers were likely to succeed in their claims that the Department of Health and Human Services, CDC, and FDA acted unlawfully when they stripped medical information from public-facing websites. It bears empathizing who ultimately bears the harm of defendants' actions, everyday Americans, and most acutely underprivileged Americans seeking healthcare, he wrote. Citing declarations from two doctors filed in the case, Bates said if they cannot provide these individuals the care they need and deserve within the scheduled and often limited time frame, there is a chance that some individuals will not receive treatment, including for severe life-threatening conditions. The public thus has a strong interest in avoiding these serious injuries to public health. His order directs the agencies to restore earlier versions of their websites by 11:59 p.m. Tuesday. It comes after Bates held a hearing on the matter Monday. Signed on his first day in office, Mr. Trump's executive order on gender ideology stated that the U.S. recognizes two sexes, male and female, and it directed agencies to remove all statements, policies, regulations, forms, communications, and other internal and external messages that promote or otherwise inculcate gender ideology. Days after the president issued the order, the Office of Personnel Management issued a memorandum ordering all agencies by 5 p.m. on January 31st to take down all websites, social media accounts, and other public-facing media that inculcate or promote gender ideology. In response to the memo, the CDC and FDA took offline numerous web pages and data sets, including recommendations on how physicians should treat sexually transmitted infections and adult immunization guidance. Now, why? First of all, it's crazy that an executive order needs to be signed about male and female. There's only two genders, and gender correlates with your sex, and it's not a sign, it's just what you are. It's crazy that had to be signed in the first place. It's crazy how woke the medical community is, especially under Biden. Some of the stuff that they put out, different guidances that the Biden administration put out, was wild. I think I maybe have one up that I have saved. Yes, I do. So this was something, I'm not saying that this is on the CDC or anything, but this is something that the White House had put out, or the Biden administration at least, about gender affirming care. So this was the kind of stuff that they were pushing about puberty blockers and saying it's reversible, and saying the different way that you can affirm people's gender ideology, including top surgery and bottom surgery, hormone therapy. So this was the kind of stuff that was prevalent in the Biden Harris administration that I'm glad we're just like done with. Like, so it's sad that it even had to go there. But if there is important information about adult immunization guidance, I don't know how much of that would have been intertwined with gender ideology, but it just seems like they could have just changed some words there. I'm guessing. I don't know how radical the pages were. But I wonder if there was some malicious compliance going on there. We've talked about malicious compliance before, but to refresh, let's say your boss tells you to do something and you don't care too much for your boss, so you go ahead and you do the directive, but you do it in the most pettiest way possible. Okay? So like Trump saying, hey, we're going to get rid of DEI. Pete Hegseth saying, hey, we're going to get rid of DEI. Diversity is not our strength. Like us being unified into achieving an objective, that's like our strength. And people are like, okay, we're getting rid of DEI. We're not going to teach you guys about the Tuskegee Airmen anymore, right? That's dumb. That's just a piece of history. It's not DEI. It's not woke. So, Pete Hegseth, Pete Hegseth went ahead and restored that immediately, but it caused headlines. People were able to say, oh my gosh, they're trying to get rid of teaching about the Tuskegee Airmen because they are racist. And so it made the headlines. But the point of the malicious compliance is they want the drama. So I wonder if some of the stuff that they took down unnecessarily just because they wanted to continue creating drama, and not because I don't understand how something about adult immunization could have been so woke that they had to take it down. Now, maybe it could have been, but it just seems like they could have probably changed some words there. But, it takes a while to update and revamp websites and all that stuff. So maybe it was just down for a little bit. And, but if they want it restored back to the way that it was prior to Trump's executive order, then that's an issue, and that's a problem. And if it's really that big of a deal to know what it was before and have access for that, there is the Wayback Machine, and you can look up how websites used to be before they are changed. That's an option if you didn't know that. So says while the wording on some websites was adjusted to adhere to Mr. Trump's directive, they could obviously do that, allowing them to stay online. Other information like data from CDC's youth risk behavior surveillance system was removed completely. The agency said in a banner on its main website that it was being modified to comply with President Trump's executive orders. Doctors for America filed a lawsuit against the health agencies on February 4th, alleging they violated federal law that governs the agency rulemaking process, and another that requires federal agencies to ensure the public has timely and equitable access to their public information. The group argued in court papers that its members relied on the scrubbed information to provide treatment, conduct research, and inform public health responses on topics like youth risk behaviors, adolescent health, and HIV. Doctors for America said some of its members were already experiencing challenges as a result of losing access to information from the CDC. In one instance, it said Chicago-based physician who works at a clinic serving low-income immigrant families could not consult the CDC's website for resources on how to address a chlamydia outbreak at a local high school and bolster STI testing and prevention efforts. Another doctor who is also a researcher at Yale School of Medicine said in a declaration that she lost the ability to consult CDC resources about prescribing treatments. Those doctors' time and effort are valuable, scarce resources, and being forced to spend them elsewhere makes their jobs harder and their treatment less effective, Bates wrote. He said the Department of Health and Human Services, CDC, and FDA face a minimal burden if required to store access to health resources which have been available to the public for years. It's still available. You can go back on the Wayback Machine. There is nothing in either the OPM memorandum or the record, and indeed defendants proffered no information at the hearing to suggest the restoration of the removed web pages would pose a burden on the agency's ability to engage in their work, Bates wrote. Similarly, there is no information to suggest that restoring public access would even interfere with the agency's ongoing effort to conform those resources with the president's executive orders. The order from Bates comes Mr. Trump has faced numerous setbacks in the courts stemming from lawsuits targeting his administration's actions. On Monday alone, 5 different judges took action that favored challenges to Mr. Trump's directives on birthright citizenship, a freeze on federal funding, cuts to how medical research grants are funded, and deferred resignation program. Yeah, they won't even let this man fire people. They won't even let this man fire people. It's just wild. It's just wild. So I don't think if they keep pressing this stuff in the courts that they will like the results, and they will probably rule a lot of these cases in Trump's favor, granting more power to the executive branch, or powers that seem like was already in his purview, but just making it more clear, just like presidential immunity was already pretty clear, and then they just made it more clear, and then they started flipping the freak out about it, like, oh, he could send Navy SEALs 6 after you for saying the wrong thing. Like, Democrats were flipping the freak out about that ruling. So things will probably go his way a lot and they'll be very angry, and then they'll want to pack the courts and get rid of the justices and impeach them and go that route. And a lot of it is lip service. I'm sure there's people fundraising and they're trying to build a resistance, but there's and really repeat the things that they did in 2016 on Trump. Like, somewhere already tried to introduce impeachment articles or whatever. But here's the thing, though. We've lived through the craziness. And people, live through the Russia collusion, the Hunter Biden laptop lies, the nonstop getting sued. And Trump still would have won in 2020. And I guess many of you out there believe that he did win, but he would have won if not for COVID. And so someone made that point, on the internet, on Twitter that I follow. And like, unless the Democrats have something in their pocket, like a global pandemic, like, what are they going to do to stop this man? And he's a lame duck. So he's going to act in a way that, like, there is no tomorrow because he doesn't have to get reelected. So he's going to be focused on his agenda and getting things done and really transforming America and keeping his promises to his constituents. because he's always, if you go back and listen to interviews he had from 30 years ago, you know, he's talking about he doesn't like how America gets ripped off. Like looking at how we spend some of this foreign aid, this is stuff my dad was saying like 20 years ago. Like like he's like, why do we give all this money to all these people who hate us, and all we spend all this crazy stuff, and we're spending so much money. Now we spend a lot of money, and most of it is on entitlements, which he doesn't really want to touch. Politicians don't really want to touch for political reasons. Yeah, we spend a lot of money on defense, but you know, it's like we're defending the whole entire world, so a lot of that money is necessary. However, I think it's crap that we apparently the Pentagon can't pass an audit. That sucks. And they need to get that together and make sure that our money is being spent well, wherever it's being spent. But some of the money and some of the things that they've been spending it on is crazy. And there are a lot of like radical Democrat pet projects, and just funding them domestically and across the world. And enough's enough. Enough's enough. And don't say that, oh, it's only a little bit of the budget, when people have to go file their taxes and they say, hey, we need your couple $100. We need you to pay the couple $1,000 so we can go send that overseas. People don't like it. I showed you guys the poll numbers of Trump the other day. He's doing pretty darn well. Pretty darn well. You know, he's very popular right now, and especially with the youth. So what they're trying to do, I don't think it's going to work the same way that it did back in 2017, because we knew what happened after they got him out and they replaced him with Biden, and people didn't like that too much. Yeah, it was quieter, and there's journalists like, oh, you know, I think it was Brian Stelter. He said, oh, you know, we could go days or whatever without thinking about Biden, but Trump is like nonstop, and Trump wants it to be about Trump. It's like, well, no, you guys want it to be about Trump. You guys want it to be about Trump. Like, before he got into office, like he won, like in the midst of like Trump winning the election, and I think around Thanksgiving, like there's people still like leaving all kind of crazy comments about my videos on election night. Like, why do you regret voting for him now? I'm like, I'm eating Thanksgiving turkey. Go live a little bit of your life. Like, I know you guys are upset, but life goes on. Like, calm down. Like, and he's not even in office. What is there to regret right now? Like, I'm trying to live my life. You guys are the ones obsessed. It's like they ignored Biden because he wasn't even present doing interviews and press conferences. And people would just bring him executive orders for him to sign. And he didn't even know all the time what he was signing. And there was only a certain amount of hours that he was even operable. So yeah, you didn't think about Biden a lot. And you didn't ask enough questions, obviously. That was the problem with the media. Like, oh, well, the White House gets really mad when we ask questions about his health. So we're just going to assume that they're jerks. Like, anyone who asks about Biden's health, they're a bad person. That's what the White House makes us feel. So we're going to stop asking questions. And this man is losing it the whole time. The whole time. These jokers. Someone asked a question on Twitch. I don't know if they're still here. This isn't the topic of what I'm talking about, but they asked a question about the Elon salute. And I don't know if you've seen the whole entire video. I mean, I wrote an article about this on my website, blacktnews.com. So I really recommend you checking that out and reading that. But if you watch the whole entire video from when he came out on stage, if I just explain it to you like this. Elon was so excited. He was announced. He came out. He's jumping around. He's fist pumping. He's waving his fists in the air. You know, he's yelling and spinning and taking in the crowd at all angles and stuff. And then he gets on stage and he's like pounding the podium and throwing his hands in the air. And then he starts talking about how this was a consequential election, one of the most consequential elections, and how he was so grateful because we saved civilization, and he takes his hand, he puts his on his chest, and he throws his hand up in the air, and then he turns around and repeats a gesture to the other crowd to take it in. So, and then he says, "My heart goes out to you all." In your mind, if you hadn't seen it, hadn't seen the stills, hadn't seen the propaganda, would your mind go just explaining what happened, that the man did a Nazi salute? No, probably not. That's not where your mind would go. And if you, again, he's doing all these gestures with his hands in the air, double fist pumping and spinning around, looking at the crowd and stuff. So he said, my heart goes out to you. It's very similar to a gesture that Macron did, the PM of France. And you can freeze frame a lot of images of people talking with their hands out in the air, and it'll look like a salute like that. But I don't have an issue with what Elon did, and I have an issue with people pretending that it was a salute, a Nazi salute, because I think there are people who are neo-Nazis and they don't need to be taken seriously. And I think the best course of action is to mock people, which is what Elon continuously kept doing. So that's my answer. To get more on that, you can go to the my website, blacktnews.com, and I wrote an article about it, and you guys can see in the article there's a link to the video where you can watch his entire speech from the moment that he walks out on stage, and he's just really, really amped up. And so the sad thing about it, people know that Elon Musk is autistic, and I saw, mothers write on TikTok videos, in the comments, my kid is autistic, and they would have done the same thing or do gestures like that or something. So I don't think it was anything malicious. And some people are like, well, it wasn't if it wasn't malicious, he was just trolling. I'm like, he just talked about how he just saved civilization, and you think he just wanted to ruin the inauguration in the rest of the day and the rest of the week by going out there and throwing out a salute, like a Nazi salute. That doesn't make any sense. But anyway, let's not quite move on. I wanted to play this clip of the speaker before I moved on, because he talked about Democrats and a lot of their rhetoric as of late, and how he would love if they actually cared about the rule of law, but they seem to have ignored it for a long time.
As I said last week, the Democratic Party is in a completely different place right now. There's no identified leader of the party. They don't have a clear vision. They seem rudderless. In hopes of finding themselves, they've latched onto this new shiny object called the rule of law. Well, we'd like to welcome them to the concept. It would be admirable if they hadn't spent the last 4 years with their heads buried in the sand while Biden literally trampled over the rule of law with no objection. In fact, many Democrats cheered that lawlessness, like when the Biden administration unconstitutionally forced the middle class to pay the student loans of doctors and lawyers, when they illegally mandated that private companies implement vaccine requirements, when they radically rewrote Title IX to undermine women's rights. Those things were actually illegal, and the Democratic Party cheered it. They didn't oppose it at all. President Trump, by contrast, is taking legitimate executive action to root out waste, fraud, and abuse in all these federal programs. That's what the American people demand and deserve. That's what they voted for. They voted for a real analysis and a real change, transformational kind of change in the way the federal government works. And the only people who take issue with it are these same congressional Democrats who never before had any issue with unelected staff or even bureaucrats running the White House for the last 4 years. That's not what's happening here. The president has empowered his new cabinet secretaries and the DOGE effort and all of these branches, divisions in the executive branch of government to go and find where the abuses have taken place. And every time something new is unearthed and uncovered and we share it with the people, they applaud that this has been discovered and they want us to keep going. And that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, so he's right on the money there. They talk about rule of law, but they are very, very late to the game. Do you guys ever see like a congressperson from your state and like, I know them? The woman on the edge there is that's Lisa McLean. She's from Michigan. She's not from my district. But there's a Democrat who's my congresswoman who I have met, Haley Stevens, and I asked her some questions. I went to a debate that she was at, and I ended up asking her some questions about how far she was willing to go on abortion. I'm like, do you believe that the child has any rights before they're born? And so she didn't really want to say. She tried to change the subject. And she's like, well, where are you from? I'm like, oh, I'm from Pontiac. And I'm like, but you didn't answer my question. she just would not say. She's like, thank you for coming. I'm like, you guys are sick, man. Like, no limitations, no gestational limits at all on with these people. But Lisa McLean, I've probably seen her more than like any other congressman. Macomb's not too far. My sister lives in like Macomb. She covers more than Macomb, but I'm pretty sure she's like my youngest sister's congresswoman. But she's really personable, really energetic. And she's done a lot or been associated with this group that I work with. So anyway, that's who the woman on the edge is, Lisa McLean. So anyway, someone asked a question. Did I see John Larson from Connecticut freeze up? I did, and it's painful to watch. I don't know if everybody else has seen that video. Like I felt sick watching it. Like he was trying to dunk on Republicans and just had a tough time. And he's 76 years old, and I don't even know if I want to show this, but I will I'll tell you what, I'll retweet it. I don't want to watch it again. And like it's so uncomfortable how he just kind of freezes up and is struggling. And I thought it was really scary when McConnell froze up, and I'm glad he stepped down as from leadership in the Senate, but I don't think that's enough. There's no shame in stepping down when your time starts winding down and you spend it with your family, but freezing up like in the middle of you addressing the Senate or whatever, like your family needs to come and get you, and you need to accept that you're mortal and your time is winding down. And I know there's a lot of people out there who don't want to accept that you can't do all the things that you used to do, but when you're in a position like that, it's not just about yourself. You are serving your constituents, and you might have to accept, you ought to accept that you can't do it in the way that you used to. So I hope that he gets some help, and he considers stepping down sooner rather than later, but he probably doesn't feel the need to because McConnell was still there after he's frozen up. And there could be other things going on health wise where like a younger person might freeze up and they need to be treated and other stuff like that. And maybe it's got nothing to do with age. Maybe it's something that can be fixed and if it's addressed when they go to the doctors and stuff. But when you're up there and you're freezing like that, it's you got to consider that it's your time to go. Not like to the great beyond. You might have like some years left in the tank or whatever, but I mean as far as you being in Congress, and he's been in Congress since 1999. And you might be like, 1999 wasn't that long ago. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. It was a long time ago. 2025, guys. It's a long time. It's a long time. We're getting old, folks. We're getting old. We're getting old for sure. So, yeah, it made me so uncomfortable watching it. I'm sure there was lots of people who made like angry, you need to get out of the Senate kind of videos and responses and stitches and TikToks, but I don't want to watch. It just made me really uncomfortable, you know. So forgive me for not sharing that news as far as showing you, but you guys can watch it on their time. It kind of freaked me out to be honest, just kind of watching it. It's just sad. It's really sad to me. And I just always think about what are the families doing? Like, why are they letting this happen? Why are they letting this go on like this? Like, why are they doing that? Anyway, let's move on. Donald Trump had some strong words as far as the conditions of the hostages and that were released, and we talked about that the other day. And he said that they look like Holocaust survivors. And one of the guys I mentioned, he was unaware that his wife and children were killed. And he was obviously starved. When I looked at comparison pictures from before they took him and to then, like, he was like 80 something pounds from my understanding, like just really, really thin. I didn't even know it was that thin looking at him. But Donald Trump mentioned that I can go ahead and play this clip. I was looking for it, the clip I played the other day. But he just talked about how bad the conditions were of the hostages.
When I see that scene that I saw today with people coming out of helicopters and airplanes that are emaciated, that look like they haven't had a meal in a month. No reason for that. And I don't know how much longer we can take it. I don't know how long we can take it. When I watch people that were healthy people a reasonably short number of years ago, and you look at them today, they look like they've aged 25 years. They literally look like the old pictures of Holocaust survivors. The same thing. I mean, the same thing. And I don't know how long we're going to take that. When I see that scene.
Yeah, so he said, I don't know how long we're going to take that. So after Trump said that, Hamas was like, oh, we're not giving back hostages right now. And they probably said that because they're all probably in bad condition. There's probably a lot who are not alive that they're not being more forthcoming about. I was always surprised to hear that anyone was kind of left alive, to be frank. But there's probably more dead than we know. But the conditions obviously aren't good. So they probably don't, I assume, want the bad PR. And in one way, it seems kind of silly to me because I'm like, you guys are terrorists who butchered people. What do you care about PR? Like, the crazy UN folks are still going to want to give you money, and God, I mean, like, look how frail. Yeah, what they did was just terrible. And the conditions they kept these people in. So they're playing games. And now Trump is telling Israel, or just, well, not telling them, but just saying, like, if it was, I'd be like, y'all better have him out by Saturday or everything's off. So I'll just play that clip.
Well, I would say this, and I'm going to let that because that's Israel's decision. But as far as I'm concerned, if all of the hostages aren't returned by Saturday at 12 o'clock, I think it's an appropriate time. I would say cancel it and all bets are off and let hell break out. I'd say they ought to be returned by 12 o'clock on Saturday. And if they're not returned, all of them, not in drips and drabs, not 2 and 1 and 3 and 4 and 2. Saturday at 12 o'clock. And after that, I would say all hell is going to break out. Well, I would.
So, Donald Trump, he's just so real, I think, because I don't know, if it were me, that would have been like my response from jump. Like, you've got like 48 hours to bring these people home, or it's going to be Armageddon. And when people will talk about Israel and the steps that they were taking while engaging in warfare with Hamas, which their like ratio, like for civilian death in urban warfare, way better than US and other countries engaging in modern warfare. We walked through the numbers some time ago, but very we'll say humane compared to what we would have done. So if October the 7th had happened to us in some kind of equivalent manner, like, it was crazy how people were coming against Israel and criticizing them, because I'm just like, we would have been like hell on earth and nobody would have been able to lecture us. People could have tried, but we would have been like, screw you. So Trump saying, like, if y'all don't give them hostages back on Saturday, everything's off. Y'all gonna die. And I was watching a TikTok live last night with this Jewish American man that I follow. And he's not conservative. And from different videos, like, because we got back into a back and forth one time on his account, it didn't seem like he's fond of Trump, like, in general. And I can understand reasons why people would not like Trump, but policy wise, like, they don't see he's like not conservative, but he's obviously very pro-Israel, and he's been very complimentary of different things that Trump has been talking about and saying and doing. And he was just like, this is the response that people should have had on October the 8th. Like, this is the response people should have had. So I just feel like Donald Trump is just so real. Like, he really is the American president, because I can see so many people saying this, feeling that, like, and I said that I felt that way. Like, if my dad was like in the Oval Office, I could imagine being like, y'all better give these people back, or it's y'all gonna be over. Like, that's the end of it. Or I already mentioned, like, the foreign aid stuff. My dad has been saying, like, talking about cutting this stuff for years. Like, years. So to me, it's just common sense. Like, he doesn't have like a particular ideology that he adheres to. He's not really conservative, I mean, he can go the whole populist thing, but it's just really like, does this make sense? This makes sense to me. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. And is this a good deal? Like, he likes a good deal. He doesn't want to be ripped off. He is petty, but mostly it's like he does want to look good. He does want to do a good job, because that reflects well on him as as being a good president or whatever. So he wants to do a good job, and he wants the country to benefit. People were like, oh, Trump wants to destroy the country. Does he really? You think that? That's silly. He wants to do a good job. Like, you may disagree with the job that he does, but he wants to generally do a good job and be seen well in the eyes of people, and maybe recently his critics in a modern context won't like him too much, but history will hopefully look well upon him. The January 6th thing will always be a thing, but other things he can do in this term that will hopefully blot out some of that, like he already had some pretty historic things with Abraham Accords going on, but the plans or whatever he's trying to do with Gaza, and I'm not convinced totally that he wants the U.S. that involved there, or how much he's playing to get other Arab countries in line and engaged, but he can really do a lot that impacts the world and really changes the Middle East. But Hamas, I'm glad he said what he said. I'm glad he said what he said. And I don't know why Biden just didn't have it in him. I think they had such a lack of moral clarity in everything anyway, but he just didn't have it in him anyway. Because they would say, don't. And then people would do it. And then what? Biden would say, don't. And Obama would be like, this is the red line. And they cross the red line. But, Trump, it's not that he's eager to do war, but if he has to do war, he wants to win. Win swiftly. Not no 20-year war thing, but go in, swoop in, and pum, pum, pum. And it's over. RC said they will never give him a Nobel Peace Prize. That's true. That's true. On a side note, I saw a tweet that said, "Are we not going to discuss that Trump has the Batman penny behind him? Like this is from the Batcave." And just kind of joking around like he's a villain or something like that. Because I'm like, the penny is new. I don't remember seeing the penny before. Fairly new. But anyway, on a positive note, Ron DeSantis, I had reported that there was drama going on with DeSantis and other Republicans who were trying to be really squishy on the different immigration rules in law. Like DeSantis was like, we're going to have a special session. We're going to pass a bunch of things as far as enforcement and with illegal immigration that could really help Donald Trump with these mass deportations. And then they didn't want to do the special session. And then they did a special session and then made a bill. And it had a lot of things in there that that was just really shady, including taking away the powers to really execute deportations and stuff, and handing a lot of powers into the hands of agriculture rather than the office of the governor. And they just had the lamest excuses for why they wanted to do it. And DeSantis was like, I'm not signing that crazy bill. And so there was a lot of vocal people like Dana Lash and other folks who were really, really talking about it and interviewing these squishy Republicans on it. And so, I'm glad that they have reached an agreement. And Ron DeSantis said there's a new bill and that if it is passed or whatever, he will go ahead and he will sign it. So he must have whipped him into shape because he sure was talking about him. He was talking about him in the press. So that ask questions and he'd be very vocal about it. And the Republicans were trying to say that he was Rhino Ron and pretend that Trump was on their side and all kinds of crazy stuff. And I am concerned, and other people are concerned about what happens post DeSantis and who's going to take that mantle. And if you're going to have some Rhino Republicans or squishy Republicans and people who, I don't know, maybe they'll be good on social issues, but they're just going to be really bad on the immigration stuff. Or maybe they'll be cave with all that stuff, We'll see. But I'm glad that Ron's been a good governor in the state of Florida, and hopefully he's not peak. You want to be like the best of the best, but hopefully there's always someone who comes after, and the progression and the goodness can just kind of continue on. But I don't know. They should have a really interesting gubernatorial primary. I mean, I'm pretty sure a Republican will win. I just I can't see the Democrats making that kind of recovery anytime soon. But well, they're going to have an interesting primary. I guess everybody will. In Michigan, we'll definitely have an interesting GOP primary, with a lot of people interested in popping in. Like, I was hearing so many names the other day of so many interested people, and we're gonna have a Senate race too. We're gonna have a Senate race, so lots of things going on as we head into 2026, and we also have like our Michigan convention coming up for like who's going to be the state party chair, but I already have an inkling where that's gonna go. I think Michonne Maddock is probably going to win that. So anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, different articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost to stream, run my site, and all that stuff, so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching live, and to all of you who are in the chat. You know, I see YouTube was chatting. I don't see nobody. There's like one. There's somebody on Facebook. Yeah, I was very quiet on Facebook today, but I thank you guys for watching, for sure. And to those of you who watch back later, I appreciate you all as well. You guys can check out different merch that's available on the site, like Make Crack Whack Again. That t-shirt, you know, that's not even about Hunter Biden. It's so funny. It was just about some dumb policies that the Biden administration had, and then they found crack in the White House. Not that it had to be Hunter's crack, but it was suspicious. We got the black tea mug and all kinds of other stuff that you guys can check out. I encourage you guys to look at that stuff, and also check out some of my books that I've written. I have 18 published works all together, so go ahead and check that out. Thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I will see you tomorrow again. I was supposed to be at the White House, and so I wasn't planning on streaming today, but the event got moved to next week, so we will have a shorter week next week. So I'll probably just be streaming Monday and Tuesday. But you know, at least we got this week together, guys. So God bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow.